Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Coming to Independent Lens.
To be or not to be? That is the question.
Hard work and determination. Strong qualities in any teenager.
I have to finish school. That is not a choice.
But when you're homeless, they are essential.
I really want to go to college.
Join Alaska Public Media on Friday, April 17th from 12 to 1 p.m. for a screening of The Homestretch, chat, and conversation about homeless teens. More at alaskapublic.org.
Cook Inlet Tug and Barge, a marine transportation company specializing in harbor services focusing on the Port of Anchorage and the major commercial participants in the Cook Inlet region, providing customers with marine services specifically tailored to their needs.
Indie Alaska is an innovative weekly web series capturing the diverse and colorful lifestyle of Alaskans. Real stories of everyday Alaskans at work and play. Supported in part by Alyeska Pipeline Service Company.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, and thanks so much for joining us for Tuesday's edition of Alaska Weather. On the satellite, you can see the storm that came across the Aleutians a couple of days ago. Low center now pulling just south of Kodiak Island, the front extending out to the east-southeast, and that's bringing some gale and storm force winds up to the North Gulf Coast, and gales coming up here along the Panhandle, along with rain edging its way eastward, and rain and snow to the north today. But back to the north and northwest a little farther, you can see quite an area of sunshine. Some high clouds over Bristol Bay, but mostly sunny conditions. We're actually off the coast here across Nunivak Island, extending all the way up to the upper Yukon Valley there, across Fairbanks and the mid-Tanana Valley. Then some areas of clouds with isolated snow showers and flurries here up over the northwest. That same pattern existing along the north slope in the Arctic coast as well. Winds are light up there, not much of a gradient, so the winds aren't really too significant, just a breeze. Not so here. There's a storm warning out for tonight for the North Gulf Coast from Cape Suckling to Cape Clear tonight for a portion of the North Gulf Coast, but gales are flying here for all of the Panhandle, all the way back just about to Kodiak Island, but the front lifting north, so those winds will diminish after the gusty winds to 40 miles an hour they saw earlier today. And back to the west, northerly winds, 15 to 30, in some cases gusting as high as 40 miles an hour across the eastern Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula. That bringing snow showers down to the area. This up here all ice covered, and actually pretty clear skies existing out in this area, but when it comes off, the wind comes off the ice, it picks up a lot of moisture and drops that in the form of snow here along the Unalaska area, back along the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula. That going on to a lesser extent, lighter winds and not so numerous snow showers out here on Adak and Atka. And then the outer edge, a few cirrus bands ahead of the next system that's pulling off to the east. On the chart today, there's all the snow showers out to the west over the Bering Sea down to the Aleutians. Here's a position of the front roughly this morning at about 10 a.m. The 974 millibar low, so the front right on Kodiak there. You can see the gradient tightening up both north and to the east toward the Panhandle, and then the nice conditions here through the central interior back down to the southwest coast. And then the hit and miss flurries and snow showers with variable cloudiness up along the Arctic coast. And for tonight, that front again, gales out all along the coastline here, the front pushing in, rain mixed with more of a mixed condition up to the north there. Same thing here along the south central Alaska area, North Gulf Coast. Looking at a mixture of precipitation from snow to rain, the rain and snow mixed, but out along the coastline should be mostly rain. And this area of moisture not getting too far to the north, the low center there southeast of Kodiak Island, weakening down to 984 millibars. A little bit of an area high pressure up here, keeping it variably cloudy, not a lot of wind, very weak gradient here, but aloft there's an upper air system that's producing some showers in this area. One of those could wander onto St. Lawrence Island. Then some hit and miss isolated to scattered flurries and snow showers up over the northwest interior. And higher pressure ahead of the next system that's going to slide to the south, slide eastward to the south of the Aleutians, something like that. So that'll bring the winds up tomorrow out here from the east and southeast, and then turning northwest toward Chimney and Attu. Weak area, high pressure. Again, aloft, there's an upper level circulation here, keeping the snow showers in north of the Pribilofs and back to the northwest and staying west of St. Lawrence Island. But not too bad here, breezy conditions, but not too terribly windy here along the Alaska Peninsula and up into the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta areas. That low center drifting northward, and the front way inland, and this front pushing into the north. Really not a lot of moisture with it, but begins to re-enhance as it approaches the Brooks Range. So look for the clouds to increase northern Koyukuk Valley and up toward Anatuvik to Arctic Village. Clouds increasing, chance of some snow. Southern approach or southern slopes of the mountains there late in the day. Otherwise, hit and miss snow and rain showers here over the interior Wrangell Mountains, Alaska Peninsula. Could see a little bit of an enhancement in the precipitation here. Western Cook Inlet on the eastern slopes of the western mountains out in this area, and some of this wrapping back around into Kodiak Island for some chances of rain or showers as well. And the broad southwest flow here carrying those showers, and they kind of dam up along the terrain and extra lift, so it's almost numerous showers or just flat out rain here along the southeast coast and the North Gulf Coast as well. Then we'll see that low comes northward Wednesday night and Thursday to position over the Susitna Valley there Thursday afternoon. So that's going to bring a chance of precipitation in the form of rain or snow to all areas of south central Alaska, and become a little more showery out along the coast. A couple of bands still moving showers into the panhandle here, numerous showers, but you can see the gradient weaker, the southwest flow not quite as strong, the low pulling back and weakening, so those showers will become more intermittent and begin to scatter out in time late Thursday and into Thursday night. The next system out here coming eastward looks like some gales into the eastern Aleutians. Winds start to pick up out over the Alaska Peninsula. Winds begin to increase over the Pribilofs as well, possibly 20 to 25 knots, and then the northeast winds, snow out to the west. And then this system down here, just coming onto the map, that's going to move northward. And that'll bring a chance of rain back into the southern southeast coast, probably late Thursday night or at the latest Friday morning. It's going to make a track right up toward the Queen Charlotte. So back into the rain after the showers and Thursday night and Friday. Temperatures down that way this afternoon, lower to mid 40s, the entire stretch of the coastline here. 43 at Klawock and 45 at Metlakatla, 45 also at Wrangell, and a 43 at Juneau, same thing at Sitka, 42 degrees. Yakutat this afternoon, 40 at Cordova. Valdez, 37 degrees with a 36 degree reading at Palmer, 37 in Kenai, 10 degrees warmer at Homer with 47 degrees. Kodiak had 38, 35 at Gulkana in the Copper River Basin up here, and 36 over at Northway, 39 Big Delta, and 41 at Fairbanks. Upper 30s here over toward Tanana. Chillier just to the west there with Galena at 30 degrees, and McGrath having 41. 25 in Arctic Village, Anatuvik at 12, and roughly a little above or below zero, mostly above zero. Point Lay at -5. These are 3 p.m. readings. 1 degree at Dead Horse, 7 Kaktovik. And Barrow was 3 degrees above zero. Just 2 degrees at Kivalina and Kotzebue, as well as Deering this afternoon, with a 1 degree reading at Selawik. 4 degrees at Tin City, 10 at Savunga, about the same, just getting above 10 degrees at 3 p.m. here along the southern coast of the Seward Peninsula. 11 degrees at Nome. Golovin at 12 and 15 at St. Mary's, but much warmer here as you move inland. Upper 30s, 37 at Bethel to 39 at Sleepmute. Farther out to the west, upper 20s across the Pribilofs, and mid to upper 30s, about sums it up for the Aleutians. And the Alaska Peninsula, mid to upper 30s to 43 degrees at Pilot Point, but King Salmon only 39. Lows tonight, upper 20s, lower 30s down in that area. Kind of a 20s, upper 20s, lower 30s, south central Alaska as well, above freezing here right along the coastline. 35 to 40 for the southeast coast, warmest over the southern areas, and teens and 20s here over the central interior. Below zero back along the Arctic coast, and down again around Kivalina to Shishmaref, falling a little below zero. 10 degrees for Savunga and Gamble, as well as Nunivak Island at Makoriak. And then the highs for tomorrow, edging above zero, possibly a little farther than today. Kaktovik up to 11 with Barrow at 6. And then single numbers and teens up over the northwest interior. Much milder, mid-40s here over the central Tanana Valley. That 46 is at Fairbanks. Mid-40s also south central Alaska. A little cooler along the coastline, but not much. And then 40s for the Panhandle. Out to the west, no change. The Aleutians in the 30s. Pribilof's edging up toward freezing with St. Paul forecast at 31. Flying weather, excuse me, looks like marginal VFR across all of the southeast coast with some lingering IFR up over the northern areas back out to the west. Along the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, look for IFR, and down the southern coast of the Kenai Peninsula. Marginal VFR here for the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula. Beginning to improve though, lower conditions in the morning, but this will begin to lift out. It could go all VFR tomorrow afternoon there for the eastern Aleutians on over towards False Pass and Cold Bay, and some areas of marginal VFR out over the Bering Sea. Marginal VFR expected from St. Lawrence Island through the Strait all the way up and along the Arctic coast. A little more prone to some lower conditions here on the east side than you will be on the west side, but expect some marginal VFR at any time in the day tomorrow up that way. Marginal and IFR conditions out to the west. Passes Anatuvik, VFR, again with that moisture and that front coming up from the south, could go marginal on the southern approach tomorrow afternoon. Same forecast for Adigan, VFR, but watch for the southern entrance possibly becoming marginal at times. Only a possibility, just a chance, but it does exist. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, no obstructions of visibility at all, at least if they are, they'll be of the VFR variety on both entrances. That same forecast for Rainy, windy, VFR, Isabel, VFR, and Mentesta, also VFR. Tanita looking good, wide open tomorrow. Portage, though, IFR eastern approach, otherwise marginal conditions. Should be a little better than what you saw today down there with the quarter-mile visibility Whittier had for some time in snow and fog. And for Chilkoot and White, forecast is for IFR all day long. For the freezing levels, 2,000 feet up to Kodiak Island, up along the coastline here, very close to where the surface is, and then the north side of the Aleutians, across the southern Bering Sea at the surface there. And icing threats, again with that next system, increasing the potential for some rime or mixed icing here out over the far western Aleutians. Icing free across the remainder of the Bering Sea and the interior, and then areas of moderate to occasional widespread rime icing mostly, could be mixed more back here to the west and southwest a little bit, but all below 9,000 to 12,000 feet. And down to the freezing level, of course. And here the upper low I was speaking of here over the Russian Far East. Circulation around that, not too strong, just 20 knots out of the south-southwest. Main flow well to the south here, 140, 130 knot jet right into the Queen Charlottes. And again, Wednesday afternoon, it'll become a little more south to north, and they'll carry that next system up late Thursday night. And well, wait till tomorrow to talk about that. And then for the 9,000 foot winds, here's that broad southwest flow of 30 to 40 knots. They'll be carrying that moisture right into the southeast coast tomorrow after the front goes through. And then easterlies curving back around, but pretty light, 5 to 10 or 15 knots here from the North Gulf Coast all the way up to the Arctic coast and through the interior. Brisk, but not too bad in those north to northwesterlies on the back side of this. 25 knots from Nunivak Island down across the Alaska Peninsula. Higher pressure for lighter winds, and then 25 to 30 knot winds along the Aleutians here, but that 50 knot band there, not that far to the south. And at 3,000 feet, the same pattern, 50 knotters south of the chain, but 20 to 25 up along the chain itself, lighter under the ridge of high pressure. We still have those northwest winds here on the west and northwest side of this low center. 25 to 30 knots coming around, a little stronger down here to the south, and then back around to the east at about 30 knots from the North Gulf Coast. Turbulence, occasional moderate chop, Kodiak Island, and mechanical turbulence along the Alaska Peninsula. Little swath here of some occasional moderate chop, Yakutat, over to about Cordova, the bigger area here with that stronger southwest winds coming up, just reaching the Port Alexander area. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engine start.
Tyros 1 was destined to become the satellite which pioneered a new generation of infinitely more advanced and sophisticated weather satellite systems. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Polar Operational Environmental, or POES, series of satellites that began with the launch of Tyros 1 now provides systematic global weather observation and coverage 4 times each day, and benefits us in ways that were barely imagined in those early groundbreaking days of 1960. Within hours of its launch, Tyros 1 presented an entirely new perspective on our weather. A panoramic view of the Earth from space was revealed to astounded meteorologists, showing clouds clustered and banded in unexpected patterns.
For the first time, it was possible to describe the cloud systems and see how they moved, and one could then begin to make very precise forecasts of how much cloudiness there would be. Combined with radar, you could then identify areas of precipitation and how fast those were moving. These totally transformed weather forecasting.
A series of polar orbiting satellites were launched throughout the 1960s. Those funded by the National Aeronautical and Space Administration for research and development were called Tyros, and those funded by NOAA's predecessor, the Environmental Science Services Administration, were called ESA. On January 23, 1970, the second generation of environmental satellites was initiated by the launch of an improved Tyros operational satellite, ITOS-1. From December 11, 1970, to July 29, 1976, 5 ITOS satellites, designated NOAA 1 through 5, were sent into orbit. NOAA 1 was the first satellite to bear the NOAA name, and the first to be launched after the establishment of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in October 1970.
From inception, there's a long process to get a satellite up doing its work. First of all, you have to have the idea, then you have to have the science, then you have to build the satellite. You have industries competing, you have to have tenders and things like that. Then there's competition and collaboration between or among agencies. Many agencies may want to do it, some agencies want to contribute, some agencies don't want to contribute. Then you have to get the money. You have to go to Congress and have appropriated millions upon millions of dollars for this very sophisticated machinery. Then, of course, there's a launch. And as one of the people mentioned at a NOAA staff meeting while I was there, there's no such thing as a free launch. It costs a lot of money, and it is a very risky proposition.
There's a period of time when you're not in contact with a satellite. It's a little dicey as to whether you're going to recover and see it or not. As a matter of fact, on the new Tyros N, the very first one we launched, tumbled for 14 orbits, and we thought we lost it. And at the 11th hour, the people in flight control and flight ops captured the satellite on a gutsy maneuver, and sure enough, they stabilized it, and it's been working for a long time. So it really, there you have to take your hats off to the operating people who understand how these things work, and are always full of new ideas on how to make them work better.
Today, the nation's environmental satellite system is operated by NESDIS, NOAA's National Environmental Satellite Data and Information Service. Geostationary Operational Environmental Satellites, or GOES, provide national or regional short-range warnings and forecasts, and polar orbiting satellites, such as the TIROS N-series, provide global long-term forecasting. Together, they are the most complete and advanced satellite global monitoring system in the world. Approximately 500 miles above the Earth's surface, traveling in an almost north-south circular path, and passing close to both poles, the NOAA polar satellites orbit the Earth 14.2 times per day. The satellites scan the Earth directly below with visual and infrared sensors, continuously transmitting data from a highly advanced array of instrumentation. The operational vertical sounder, for example, provides vertical profiles of temperature and water vapor from the Earth's surface to the top of the atmosphere. An AVHRR, or Advanced Very High Resolution Radiometer, collects and sends information on day and night cloud top and sea surface temperatures, as well as ice and snow conditions.
Welcome back. After the gale force warnings out tonight here, tomorrow when the front edges eastward, these winds will become south to southwest, 25 to 30 knots, with seas though running 20 feet or higher here all along the outside coastline. Inside water, southeast 30 there for Clarence Strait, southerlies at about 25 knots, Frederick Sound and Stevens Passage, with northern Lynn Canal, same thing, 25 knots with seas at 5 feet right out of the south. Then for Thursday, southerlies everywhere, 20 to 25 knots here, out along the coastline with those seas 16 to 18 feet. Over the inside channels, Clarence Strait, south 20 knots, 4 to 8 foot seas, of course with the 8 foot seas occurring down close to the open ocean areas. Otherwise, not much change. Southerlies 25 knots continue through Thursday. For the Cook Inlet zone, north of the Forelands, northeast at 15, about 20 knots to the south, seas running 3 to 5 feet there, and possibility of a gale force northwest wind at some point in the day tomorrow here for the Barren Islands. Otherwise, small craft advisories everywhere else. East wind still at about 30 knots for the North Gulf Coast, same area that's under the storm warning tonight. And for Thursday, lighter winds, all areas, more west and southwest at about 20 here for the waters around Kodiak Island. Southwest 15 here for the southern Cook Inlet area, light and variable. That low center coming right up over northern Cook Inlet and then setting up somewhere, I'll say near Squintna. So light variable winds for the northern inlet and pretty light for Prince William Sound as well. For Bristol Bay, northwest 20, add 10 knots to that here as it comes across the Aleutian Range to Sitkinak to Sandpoint, northwest 30 knots, 25 knots here in the Pacific side of the peninsula, northwest 20 on the Bering Sea side. Then for Thursday, west winds, light west winds here for both Bristol Bay and for the area southwest of Kodiak. And then southeasterlies picking up to 25 knots or 20 to 25 knots here across the Alaska Peninsula. Out for the Aleutians, easterlies 20 to 30 knots here for the far western zones. And for Adak and Atka, southeast 20 or south 20 knots, and then lighter west northwesterlies here for the Fox Islands. And those pick up significantly for Thursday with gales on the Pacific side of those, the Pacific side zones, and also 30 to 35 knots from the east on the Bering Sea side. Northeasterlies 25 to 35 knots for the central Aleutians and lighter winds out to the west. And for the southwest coast, light variable winds here north of Nunivak Island, just 5 knots, but northwest 20 south of the island there and southwest of Kuskokwim Bay. Light northeasterlies up around St. Lawrence Island are variable, light and variable, right down into the northern Bering Sea. Barely a breeze there for the Pribilofs west at 10, seas running at about 4 feet. Then for Thursday, swing around to the east there and bring it up to 25 knots, especially for St. George Island. Northeasterlies 10 to 15 along the southwest coast and east 20 for the northern Bering Sea, and still light for St. Lawrence Island. East winds 15 knots here all along the Arctic coast and eastern Beaufort Sea coastlines, with north to northwest 10 to 15 there from Wales to Cape Thompson and Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort. And then for Thursday, Northwesterlies at about 15 here for the southeastern Chukchi Sea. Kind of east winds, no change for the remainder of the coastline. East everywhere, 15 knots with patchy fog in all the zones mentioned. And for tonight, again, the gales with the front up to the southeast coast and the North Gulf Coast, and that storm warning out from Cape Suckling to Cape Clear for tonight. And rain and snow continuing heaviest along the North Gulf Coast, and that'll be pushing into the Panhandle as well. And then for tomorrow, the front pushes through, approaches the Brooks Range there, but in a much weakened state, and then a lot of showers in that southwest flow just make for a numerous shower day for the Panhandle with lighter winds, though winds coming down. And then the next system down here to the south, and then still more showers. Those will be diminishing in the afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.